to Wellness Curated. This is your host, Anshu Bahanda. And as you know, the aim of this podcast is to help you lead a healthier, happier, more hopeful, more fulfilled life. And today's episode is something that's very, very close to my heart. We're going to delve into the power of affirmations, visualization, and manifestation. Our guest today is Luigi Sciambarella. He's a fully accredited UKCP registered hypnopsychotherapist, and he's a personal development and meditation facilitator. Now, Luigi's had decades of experience, and what he's particularly good at doing is with groups as well as with individuals, he helps them understand emotional patterns, resolve inner difficulties, and taps into their creative resources, or helps them tap into their creative resources. Welcome to the chat, Luigi, and thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you, Anshu. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Now, I want to jump straight in and ask you, explain to us and explain to our listeners the concept of affirmations. And do affirmations have an effect on us emotionally, and why?
Mm-hmm. Great question. Affirmations are a real hot topic right now, especially as manifestation goes hand in hand with affirmations, or you use a lot of affirmations in manifestation work. You can't avoid using affirmations. It's how we talk to ourselves, and what people fail to realize about affirmations is exactly that what you're telling yourself often is an affirmation. So listen to your self-talk, the voice in your head that's repeating the same mantras, is an affirmation, or using a series of affirmations. And very often what people don't realize is that when you're trying to use an affirmation for your benefit, then you need to look at the affirmations that you're using to your disservice first. And that's where people often start, or at least they fail to start. So they're saying, okay, I manifest abundant things in my life. And then there's a part of you saying, yeah, but that doesn't happen to me. I'm not lucky. That happens to somebody else in my family or someone else I know. They're always getting everything they want. And so this is, that is an affirmation. I don't get things, others get things. I don't benefit. My life is hard. And some of those things are very cultural. They might be things that we've been handed down by parents and so on. So, we need to explore that a little bit. It's not just a series of statements.
So you're saying that, we know that people use affirmations to attract different things, whether it's success, love, manifest
and
the
failure.
life they want.
Mm-hmm.
And interesting, because that's exactly what I was going to come to. I want to ask you about, so what you've discussed just now is that there is a belief. We all have a belief, which probably comes from our subconscious mind. And we have these affirmations that maybe someone's told us to read it out, or maybe it's what we want and we've written it out. But if our beliefs and our affirmations don't work in harmony with each other, what happens then, Luigi? Can we still manifest the life that we're constantly reading out the affirmation about?
It can happen. It can happen, but you're fighting against the current, which is taking you in the opposite direction. Because, when you choose an affirmation, when you are trying to create something new in your life in some way, then you need to go deeper into why are you choosing that affirmation right now? What are you telling yourself about yourself in this moment that requires that affirmation to get out of? So it could be that you're saying, okay, I want good things to flow to me. Well, is that because you think that bad things are flowing to you right now? And then that's the stronger affirmation, you see. And then you're saying something that might sound like some hocus pocus to try to counter it. Whereas when we come into the understanding that actually the universe is abundant, energy is just energy, we all come from the same potentiality. So how do we want to express potential? How can I live a more joyful life, for instance, can be a question that you ask. Then the affirmation can align with that. So you actually start from a position of abundance. You start from a position of gratitude. And that allows the affirmation to then focus your intent. And this is often what people don't do. And which is why then they go, oh, yeah, that doesn't work. Affirmations don't work. And like a colleague of mine says, well, that one did. The affirmation that affirmations don't work. Yeah. So this is what we have to be looking at as well.
But Luigi, tell me, so you're saying the foundation or the subconscious mind has to believe in the affirmation. How do we do that? So, I mean, I'll give you an example. Someone's looking for love, right? And they haven't been able to find love. How do they convince their subconscious mind? They might be saying this affirmation every morning: love is coming to me, love is coming to me. Morning, evening, afternoon, after every meal, 5 times a day. But unless they believe it, what you're saying, unless their subconscious mind believes in the affirmation they're doing, unless they believe their love is going to come to them, the universe is going to get mixed signals and get confused.
Well, I think the confusion actually is in the term love. That's where you have to be clear about what it is that you're actually trying to manifest. Because, when somebody says, okay, I can't find love, then you're not looking for it. You're what you're doing is you're thinking that it's something external to you. Start with self-love.
Okay, so how do you change the base belief? That's my question.
That's a deep question.
How do you change your subconscious mind?
Okay, first of all, you start with where the subconscious is leaning you. And it might be the conscious mind, actually, that's doing it as well. In other words, there's a story there that says that in order to have love, I need to find it, rather than it actually is part of who you are and it's part of your true nature. And therefore, you align with an awareness of your loving center. That is where love is. Right. And then the manifestation work, the affirmation work helps you to perhaps find yourself in situations where that can be expressed more abundantly. So you might meet people who allow something that's already in you to manifest itself and express itself more easily. Right. It's not about trying to find it externally. Now, the inner work is to say, okay, what conditions, what stories am I telling myself about myself? So before you even do any of the affirmation work, you need to say, where is that affirmation intent coming from? Why am I choosing to use this? What am I telling myself about myself? What am I telling myself about the world around me? And then you question, is that true? Is what I'm saying about myself true there? Because when we say an affirmation, about saying about being more abundant and knowing that I'm worthy and all that kind of stuff, there's nothing that I need to do to deserve the things that I want. I am enough. And a part of you then says, no, then that's the bit that we need to speak with. So what I sometimes do with affirmations, or at least I used to do, now I find it a lot easier to use them. What I used to do is pick something that's really far out there in terms of where I was in emotional range. And I'll explain what I mean by that in a moment. So I am perfect as I am. And then I just wait. Right? That's like throwing a grenade into the unconscious. It's like, just wait, just give it a minute. I am perfect. Everything is perfect just the way it is. Right? And then there's a part of me that wants to be all lofty and spiritual that says, yeah, there's nothing to fix. That's right. That sounds zen. Let's go with that. And then, yeah, but there's, maybe that lack of focus, or maybe when you start a project and you don't finish it, and maybe blah, 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 blah. And so all these maybes and the shoulds start coming in. So the question that I ask my therapy clients when they're trying to do this kind of work or do some coaching is, what would that give you that you don't already have? And are you sure that would give you that?
I'll give you an example of a very close friend who has tried numerous projects, and in every business there is a lot of, it's hard. Some obstacle comes in his way. So his mind has been conditioned to think now that there will be an obstacle. So how does one change his mind so that the affirmations work for him?
Well, I think the thing there to recognize is that sometimes we, in the moment, in the present moment, we see something as an obstacle, something that we need to overcome. And this comes to what Einstein was reputed to have said, which is that one of the most important decisions that we'll ever make is whether the universe is friendly or hostile. I don't know if he said it, but it sounds great. And so if you see everything as a challenge and it's like, oh, this is difficult, then step back a little bit. Is it a learning experience? What did you learn from previous occasions? How is that setting you up? Or what didn't you learn from previous occasions, perhaps, that then the pattern has to repeat itself in order for you to learn something? Because sometimes in the here and now, it feels like a massive obstacle. But you roll forward 10 years and you go, I'm really glad that thing happened because it stopped me from jumping into something even worse in this moment, or it helped me to recognize an opportunity now. But what we tend to do is think that where we are right now is the end point. And actually, what we need to do is step back a little bit and say, this is a point in time. Who I was 10 years ago and the situation that I was in is not who I am right now. It's not who I'm going to be in 10 years, but I don't even know that yet. And so it's about, just being able to sort of deal with the here and now situation. What is the most appropriate thing without it can be informed by the past, but not colored by the past.
Let's take it into the future. So there's two schools of thought. One is that if you do these affirmations, you can shape your life, you can manifest your life and create the life you want, right? But there's another school of thought that says, why worry about the future? Live in the present moment. How do you tie these two in? Are they in conflict with each other?
No, I don't think they are. I think it's all about attachment or repulsion in some kind. So the classic grasping or aversion that needs to be considered there. It's are you living in a potential future and then you don't act in the present, because the present's the only place where you can actually do anything, right? So this is here. And usually if we spend too much time thinking about the future, then anxiety can creep in. And if we think too much about the past, then depression can creep in. But we can look forward to things that can come, right? That doesn't mean living in the future. That just means allowing energy to flow beautifully into that future, not denying it, because actually can be another form of anxiety. You can say, I don't want to think about the future because that only gives me anxiety. But then you're not planning anything. And so actually taken to the other extreme, it leads to potentially hedonism in the present, because I'm not thinking at all about the future. And so, oh, well, let's just live here in the here and now. And who cares if this is something that can get me arrested later on? So there's what I think that really means about connecting with the present is connecting with the appreciation of where I am right now. Connect to the energy of the present, and from that space, then manifest for the future.
Tell me what your favorite affirmation is.
I've got quite a few. One of the things I like to say to myself is, you're allowed to want things. And so when we start to use manifestation for things that don't sound so spiritual, then we say, well, maybe I'm not on the path. And, I'm thinking, okay, well, actually, I want a new set of headphones because I really like something and therefore I get these. And I think, but was I attached to an object? Well, it's okay. I'm not identifying with that. So if I'm creating a story about myself, if you want a new car and you just love that red car, whatever it is, a Ferrari, whatever, you can manifest that. It's okay to want that. The problems come in when you say, I'm only worthy, I'm only of value if I have that. Mm-hmm. And now I'm a loser. That's the thing. So you can use that wanting in for spiritual things, wanting enlightenment, wanting more clarity, wanting more abundance and joyful expression. The feeling actually becomes the affirmation. How do I want to feel today, for today? And that's what I go to every morning. So when I wake up in the morning, I say, how can I use today? What would it feel like to be expressing joyfully today? And what does that? So really tune in. It's not just about the words. The words are a way of focusing the mind, but then you got to go beyond words because words are very linear. the two-dimensional things. You know, the you need the weight of everything else, your deeper being, to align with those words.
So
And
you're
then
saying
that's my
actually
affirmation.
live your affirmation. Is that what you're saying?
Very much so. And this is, you know, I mentioned the term emotional range before. Like, I might work with somebody who's depressed, and they're saying, you know, they've had major depression, they're on pills or whatever, and so on. And they've come across some manifestation work, and they've thought, okay, I'll try some affirmations. And they've said, you know, I'm living a happy and abundant life. And then part of their mind just says BS, because you're not. You barely want to get out of bed in the morning, right? That's too far out of their emotional range. What they can do as an affirmation, as an intermediary step, is say, I can look forward to small, joyful things showing up in my life. I can enjoy my coffee, my morning coffee, or my morning tea. And if you can't, get yourself some good coffee or tea in the morning, right? You know, that can be really small. And then there's a part of you that will find it very difficult to argue with that. Now you're already chipping away at this all or nothing thinking, that either you're abundant or you're not.
Okay.
And so what I tend to think about with affirmations is that sometimes with the bigger questions, like, you know, what I want to be doing, what is my purpose, those sorts of things, or what is my purpose in the now, these are big things. How do I want to live my life is a massive question. Sometimes that might take 6 months, a year more to unfold, and I can just leave it. And it's like you've given the order to a waiter. Let them get to the chef. Let them get to the kitchen and actually place the order. But what people tend to do with affirmations is they say it and then go, nothing happened. And then now the affirmation is, this affirmation doesn't work. They haven't said it as such, but when they next say it, the affirmation is tainted. So this is why I say, you know, pick something that's, I can go along with that reasonably well.
But Luigi, I want to ask you about affirmations and the visualization technique.
Mm-hmm.
How do they tie in together?
Okay, so there's several things there. So there's a couple of things that I do with visualization. So it takes a reasonable amount of time. Normally, when I'm in therapy or in coaching, I can spend 30 minutes or so doing this. But you can certainly try this on your own. What I tend to do is, first of all, come into how I feel right now. So I do some sorts of centering meditation, just noticing what I notice without interfering with it. And then the visualization typically can go in two directions, in the past or in the future. I go into the past to find a resource. So when is it that things were really flowing well for me? And it could just be a very small amount. I know some people will say, oh God, I never had anything happen. That's because you don't remember it. You know, there'll been a time where, if you can walk now, there'll have been a time when you were a baby and you struggled a lot. So these were the biggest learning experiences that we had, were often before we could even remember. So I say to people, if you can't tap into that, then just know that that was there, because it must have happened. The fact that you're talking right now means that that must have happened. Lots of failures before successes, or lots of feedback before success. So I try to tap into the energy of that. What would it have been like? And can I remember an event or a situation where I tried a lot of things and then there was a success? What did that feel like? And it could be something really, really small. It could have involved other people. It could have not. It might have involved receiving a certificate. It might not. It might not have been externally validated at all. Where I felt that I've achieved something. And what did that feel like? Bring it into the present moment, because that will be my compass for manifesting. And then I do a future pacing. So I will say, what would it look like? What would I be like? What environment would I find myself in when I'm in that kind of thriving situation? And that's where the visualization, and you're engaging your imagination. You're using all of your sensory imagination to align with that affirmation, essentially.
So the other thing I want you to explain to us is actually, what is manifestation? And I'm going to ask you a question that I've asked a lot of spiritual masters, and I'm still seeking the answer. And that is, from having talked to you previously, you clearly believe in karma, right? Which a lot of people call destiny. So we come with a particular purpose say, to this planet with a particular karma. Can we use manifestation to change that?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question, and you know, it depends how rigidly you hold those concepts. For me, it's all about like the future's a probability. It hasn't happened yet, and we're flowing into it. And you know, when you look at and depends how philosophical we want to get here, but when you look at the concepts of karma, that is just a tendency because energies want to balance themselves. That's all that's happening there. It doesn't have a positive or a negative. It fluctuates between polarities because that's just the nature of duality. But it's all coming from the same potentiality. At some point, if you tap into the potential, there is no karma, you know, because what karma is saying is you've focused your energy over here a lot, and then there's a fruit that comes out of that. So you get the vipaka from the karma, you know, so there's the fruits of karma. But you've been focusing a lot on this, and then this happens. And manifestation work is exactly that. What we're saying is I'm tweaking the probabilities to an advantage that I choose. And the fruit of that will be the thing that's manifest. So if I think about this a lot, then the chances are something is going to grow out of that. So actually, you're steering the karma in some sense.
Okay, so are you saying that, like, as an example, most people I know are looking for either love or success or good, better health or spiritual growth? That kind of covers the things that people are trying to manifest in their life. I'm sure there are others, but in general, tell me, can people manifest all these?
They do. they do manifest all those things. Very often, though, they take it the other way because they tell themselves repeatedly through affirmations that they're not even aware of our affirmations, that they don't have good health, they don't have good relationships, they don't have good jobs, and so on. So the key is, yes, you already know how to do it negatively. So take control of it, do it positively. And if you can't go positive, go to neutral, and then from neutral, go to positive. This is the stepping stone idea. But yeah, people absolutely do that. I mean, you know, you just have to look at the placebo effect as an example of that. I mean, what is the placebo? The manifestation. You know, you're telling yourself that something is going to work for you in some way. And they take an inert substance and that heals them, physically heals them. That's why all medical trials have to account for the placebo effect, because it happens. People think themselves into configurations physically, mentally, emotionally, just because of what they believe. So beliefs are just thoughts that you think about a lot. So when you have a belief, just like what I just said, what have you been thinking about a lot? And what can you start thinking about a lot that then becomes your new belief? And that could be useful for you.
So can you give us a simple step-by-step process that our listeners can use to manifest the life that they want, whatever it is that they want?
Yeah. Okay. Step-by-step process. So sit in meditation. Essentially, what we want to do is I mean, there's lots of ways of describing meditation, so I'm not going to get into that too much. But the idea here is to get into a receptive mindset. That is a relaxed, open focus with a receptive mindset. Because, you know, one of the biggest problems, well, actually, probably the biggest problem that people have is rigidity of some kind, rigidity of thought, rigidity of emotions, rigidity of actions. And that stops them from doing a lot of things in life. So why are we rigid is the question, or why are we rigid about certain things? You know, why is it that when I'm with my friends and family, I'm all happy and playful, but then when it comes to trying to get into a more romantic relationship, I freeze and I don't know what to do and I become all stiff and whatever else. You know, what am I telling myself in those two scenarios as an example? So that's rigidity in some way. I work with people, for instance, with public speaking. They become rigid on stage, their mind goes blank and whatever. Then suddenly they've got a problem. So when we go into the opposite of rigidity, then that's receptivity, flexibility is what we're going for. So I sit in meditation, I meditate regularly, and have a daily practice, because what I want to look at primarily is how do I cultivate an attitude of flexibility that connects me with the here and now. And so relaxed, open focus without judging anything that comes, allowing thoughts to be there because my mind's going to think. So it's not about trying to stop the mind. It's just a noticing what your mind tends to think about, and then saying, do I need to think about those things? Or are there other things I can think about instead that would be more useful in this moment? So there's the observation mode, and then there's the application integration mode, which comes from meditation. And very often you'll find, whether it's mindfulness practices and so on, they recommend that you do some small practice in the morning and something in the evening. And the main reason for that is thoughts have momentum. And so in the morning, you reset that. Whatever happened during the night and dreaming and everything else, you reset those thoughts and you say, okay, I'm going to be receptive and flexible today. You take that into your day, and then maybe that happens and maybe less so. And then that carries on into the evening, and then you break it at that point by meditating again. You put yourself back into a receptive mode as you go into the night. So we start with meditation also because it makes it a lot easier to be able to focus on what's going on internally when you shut out the outside world a little bit. Doesn't mean that you have to be somewhere completely silent. It just means that you can maybe just close your eyes and not think about other things. Yes, there are things that are important, but just not right now for 5 minutes. So this is why I start with meditation.
So would you advise people to start with meditation and focus on something like a figure, a sound like a gnome, or I don't know, light, or on hope, or what they want? What do you...
I normally just say start with the breath because it's always with you and it's been used for at least 2,500 years. So I think they know something about why to use the breath. It's like and it's the object then of meditation because it's quite neutral and you're not trying to change the breath in any way. You're just observing it, and then just taking a moment to notice not only what's going on in your head in thoughts, but also how you feel in your emotions, in your heart center, and then in the gut. And I normally start with what's called the 3 diamonds meditation in Buddhism, or the 3 brains of the body. We know that there's a brain in the head, but we also know that there are neuronal-like structures in the heart and in the gut. 40 million neuronal-like structures in the gut. That's the size of a cat's brain. Huge amounts of thinking, intuitive thinking. So when you have that alignment, and that's what you're gently going for, a rough alignment, then when you do the affirmation work, so when you say a message to yourself, like, I understand that I can grow through joy, you're listening to what your head's saying, you're listening to what your heart's saying, you're listening to what your gut's saying. If there's disagreement, then I just sit with that a little bit. And I find that space where there's an affirmation that I get my head, heart, and gut aligned with. Once I have all 3 in alignment, that affirmation will work beautifully.
Now, Luigi, with your decades of experience in meditation, do you come across situations, are there standard difficulties that people go through when they start meditating? Because a lot of people initially get quite restless.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there's what's classically termed the meditator's itch. When you just sit in meditation and then suddenly you feel like you need to scratch here and then here and then the knee, and people just don't want to move because they assume they know what it means to meditate by looking at a picture of somebody meditating. So when you look at a picture of somebody meditating, then we think, oh wow, they're having an enlightenment experience and I hope I get that. You have no idea what's going on in their head. They could be thinking about where to buy the bananas when they go to the drive home, but we see these people in Zen. So we think, oh, wow, they must be lofty. So allow whatever experience is there that's arising and not forcing an experience because of a story you've told yourself about what meditation is supposed to be. But meditation is just focusing inwards a little bit and getting a receptive attitude. Can you get that in some way?
Yeah, we've done podcasts on dancing and how that helps you. So all these creative things, that could be your form of meditation.
Yeah,
you could be an artist.
Music. Absolutely. I mean, I've done that myself. I've been in meditation playing chess.
But tell me a success story that you've had where, affirmations, transformation, where one of your clients have had some massive transformation through.
Well, I see it a lot. I mean, and I'll just talk about myself, just as an example, because, like, as I said, I was in a job that I really didn't like. It paid well, And that was kind of a problem because, when I was thinking about what to manifest, I didn't really think that I could marry the two, which was something that I enjoyed doing, something that paid well. Right. And that's why I needed to work on that abundance stuff. And it's, by success diminishes no one and so on. Because, what I find now is, I'm a trainer for the Monroe Institute. I'm on the board of directors for the Monroe Institute. None of that was my intention when I started meditating. And but I found some really, really useful tools in working with the Monroe Institute. But as I said, I didn't want to be a trainer. That wasn't on my radar at all. And when I really started to apply this manifestation work, I thought, okay, how do I focus on a joyful expression? What would that feel like? And I got myself into a space where I could feel a target. It was a target feeling. It wasn't a clear idea about what I wanted, as in like a visualization and meditation type of thing, but I could feel something. And that works as a compass. Sometimes what we want is a map to say, okay, well, what's the route? But I liken, we were talking about karma. I think karma is like a map. You're saying this is where we're going to go. That's not what we want, really. What we want is a compass, something that gives us a direction in life. And so say, am I more or less in alignment with that direction? And so if I veer off this way, I can make my way there, but it's going to be slightly different, and that's okay. If you only stick with a map, you'll think, oh, I've left the path and I'm done. And that's not the way I framed it. So there's nothing that I do right now that is something that I don't want to do, that I have to do.
What advice would you give someone when they feel that none of this is working?
Well, when you're saying it's not working, what do you mean by that? What are you looking for then? Because then that will give you the idea of what to actually focus your energy on. Because if you're telling yourself a story about, I will only acknowledge that this affirmations work when this happens, then is that the next step, or can you just scale it back a little bit? What is something maybe simpler that can be the next step? And then build from there. So, if you're trying to manifest millions, that might not be what you need right now. It might be that actually what you need is a few thousand, right? Start with something a little bit smaller that gets you to a goal state. Because like I've worked with people who have thought that, for instance, they need a lot of money in their life, but actually that's not what happened. What ended up happening was that they ended up in a totally different situation. So one of my clients, for instance, quite early on, was trying to find a way of, maybe getting rid of some of the antagonistic relationships at their workplace. And what they ended up manifesting was a totally different job in a totally different area, and then they were like, my God, this wasn't at all on my radar. A career change wasn't at all what they were thinking about, but they were so much happier doing that. So sometimes you think, oh, I need to work on the relationships at work. No, maybe you just need to be out of there. The answer, what you manifest, might be completely surprising to what you think is going to show up as. So don't limit how it presents itself. You might think you need this to happen, but actually what shows up is something completely different. Being in that receptive mode allows the universe to work out the how. You just focus on the what.
Yes.
Yeah, the what is your energies. Yeah.
And Luigi, do you think that's a common mistake? That exactly what you said, that we focus too much on the how. So when we're doing an affirmation or a visualization, is that the most common mistake you see? We're so busy getting into the details and the how. How will that happen? How will I make the money? How will I meet the person?
Absolutely. And this is why I say when you're doing that future visualization, you only go to the first step, because otherwise you're going to limit how it's going to play out. And think, when you're thinking consciously, it's only a really small area of your brain that's doing that, relatively speaking. It's the left side frontal areas, essentially, that are in the driving seat. It's left brain thinking, typically. that is very, very limited. And you can look at all the neuroscience of this, right?
Yes, absolutely.
It's very, very left brain thinking. And when we go into meditation, and this is why I utilize that as a tool as well, and as well as cultivating an attitude. What I'm saying to that left brain thinking is, as I said before, if you'd have worked it out by now, we wouldn't be sitting here. So relax. Maybe there's a piece of data you haven't gathered yet. So to be receptive means to allow new information in as well. And that new information is only new information because it wasn't there in the first place, right? So in order for you to be able to be even able to notice that, you need to go into more of a receptive right brain thinking and feeling.
And common mistakes in meditation, Luigi? What is the most common mistake?
Well, a common mistake in meditation is sitting and assuming that there's a right or wrong way of doing it. You know, and expecting that there's if you see somebody in meditation, then you know what their inner state is. You know, whatever you're doing when you're sitting there is the right state for you.
And what books or resources can you recommend which will help us dive deeper into these practices? You've talked about the Monroe Institute. Anything else?
Well, I mean, the Monroe Institute, you know, a lot of what I've been talking about, you know, we built meditations for. We have several programs, and of course, you can look at the Monroe Institute about that. Joe Gallenberger, who's our kind of #1 manifestation guy at the Institute, he's written a few books now. One called Liquid Look that I would recommend. I think Liquid Look is a great one about getting the right mindset for manifestation. And you might have come across The Secret that covers some of those ideas that I've been covering. But it's you know, getting into that receptive attitude needs to be done through where in our Expand app we've actually put in a whole section on manifestation that people can try the meditations in and try it out for themselves to get an idea of how to become more receptive and focus on what they want rather than what they don't want. So yeah, maybe that would be a good starting point.
And Luigi, if I would say that we want to give our listeners one powerful action that they can take to manifest what they want in their life, success, love, health, etc. One powerful action, what would you say that is?
Keep a gratitude journal.
Okay, wonderful.
Get into an attitude of gratitude in the here and now.
So Luigi, at the end of every session, we summarize the session by doing a very quick rapid fire round.
Okay.
The first step to using affirmations.
Creating a receptive mindset, focus on what you want, move into the heart, not only into the head, and enjoy it.
Wonderful. A piece of advice you'll give someone experiencing turmoil in their life.
It'll pass. It'll pass. You know, you're a process. You're not a fixed thing.
And one important thing to keep in mind before taking up meditation.
It's not going to solve all your problems. They will always be there, but your attitude will change.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Luigi. We've had an incredible session. Thank you for your time. I'm really grateful.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's been fun.
Thank you for listening to us today. We hope you learned something new, and I hope we've helped you in some way in manifesting a healthier, happier, more hopeful, more fulfilling life. If you enjoyed the show, please press like. Please invite your friends and family to subscribe to the channel. And also, I would love to hear from you. So please send me any questions or any topic suggestions to my email, anshu@wellnesscurated.life. And I also have a book of affirmations that I have put out at Wellness Curated. If you would like to buy this, again, please send me an email at anshu@wellnesscurated.life. It has an affirmation for every day of the week. Talk to you next week. Thank you.